And I think that's certainly a question or a comment I've heard. I think there's often a critique that there's so many orgs rallying around a common issue but not working together to have a cohesive message. You know, when you look at other orgs such as, you know, GLAAD or the NAACP or Amnesty or whoever, you know, how do you know when it's the right time to bring a partner on? And is there, you know, are there times that partners would complicate the issue and perhaps it's better to do your own thing? Or is there really power in this unified message? Can I try that?
So I think it's a really important, it's an important question. And the approach that groups like Colour of Change and some of the groups of purpose has taken is to partner with other organisations on specific campaigns where you do have a clear message that you need to amplify, where having 10 organisations is much stronger than one. I think that is a better organising model than kind of the permanent coalition model, where you're trying to move as a large lumbering unit and make a lot of decisions together. And I think for the kind of movement building work that's about actually engaging people, that's very people focused. So it's not about organizations, it's about people. And you're going straight to the people. Very cumbersome coalition structures can often inhibit the kind of creativity and risk taking that better serves the people that you're trying to organize.
I mean, I think there's, you know, there's different ways of approaching how you create change. And, you know, not every approach works for every solution. There's times when you just need a groundswell of public support. But there's other times when it might be one key person that you're trying to target to change a policy or something of the like. Rashad, sometimes I think that Colour of Change does a little bit more of that specific targeting. Any thoughts on that, on
I mean,
those different strategies?
When you send a lot of emails to people and ask them to join you in a lot of efforts, it's incredibly important that you're being strategic about how you walk people through the political process. How you walk them through what's possible and what it means to sort of click yes and what we might ask you to do next, and to not sell folks on a reality that doesn't exist. So not sending out an email saying, if we just get enough people, John Boehner's going to do this, because he won't. And you know, we could get all of our members, black folks and their allies, to sign the same petition to him, and he probably won't do it. And so the question is, in a smart campaign, is finding the right lever that is going to actually sort of move the conversation forward. So an example for us was our ongoing campaign around the impact and the role of the American Legislative Exchange Council on the laws that impact black folks and our allies across the country. ALEC is a 40-year-old state, 40-year-old national organization that works in the state to produce what they call model bills on everything from you know, voting policy to gun policy to immigration, criminal justice, the environment, our economy, our schools, and have passed a lot of laws that put our community in harm's way. And you know, there were a lot of groups, a lot of great groups that we work very closely with that spent years protesting ALEC. And you know, for us at Colour of Change, we never stood outside of ALEC's doors. ALEC can do whatever they want to do. But when the strategic insight for us was that 98% of ALEC's funding came from corporations. Corporations who every single day came to black folks and said, buy our products or use our services. And we're having this separate kind of relationship in secret with ALEC. And so we told the corporations and ran this 2-year campaign that we've been in the middle of to say to corporations that you can't come for black folks' money by day and try to take away our vote or make us unsafe by night. And you can support ALEC, but you're going to be held accountable. And ALEC can continue to do what ALEC wants to do, and if ALEC somehow decided to have a protest in front of Colour of Change's offices, we would take some pictures and send out a fundraiser to let our members know that we were making progress. But being clear with our members around what's possible, and not saying we're going to shut down ALEC by asking ALEC to stop doing what it does, would be foolish and unfair, and not sort of the type of member service that is important for organizations like Colour of Change and All Out and others.
Yeah. You talk about keeping people engaged and sort of walking them through the process, and I think that's that's such an important part of any online strategy, really. You know, there is so much competition for our attention online. You know, how do you make sure your message is getting heard? How do you keep people engaged? You know, we hear that Facebook is on the decline with teens, for example, and yet that could have been the start of your entire strategy. You know, if we could solve social change with cat photos, I think that would be, you know, a really powerful thing. But so how do you keep people engaged for the long term so that you are able to mobilize them on future campaigns?
Well, I'll start with this because I think part of it is related to coalition building. I mean, one of the things that we do with Catapult is, you know, the power of the crowd, both on the donor side through, you know, lots of small donations can end up funding a full project, which is fantastic. Also on the partner organization side, because we have some really tiny partner organizations who don't have as much reach as we do or some of our other partners do. And so, like, for example, helping Roots of Health in the Philippines, really tiny, reach a new audience is really important for us. So I think, you know, trying to have unified messages with partners, and then also being transparent, as you talked about before, accountable. Our reporting methods are very important to us because I think there's a lot of cynicism out there about what is charity actually doing, where does my donation really go? And then also just being authentic. You know, so many companies and organizations fall into, oh, we have to say these certain things on behalf of our spokesperson or whatever, but it's important to have an authentic voice, and I think that's what people really respond to.
Jeremy, anything?
Yeah, I mean, I think the key difference is moving from a mindset of like, we're doing this little campaign or this little initiative, which is the way, you know, sort of, oh, well, 6 weeks and it'll be a big splash, and then we don't really have a strategy for what happens after that 6 weeks, right? And moving from an orientation about how do you hold people's engagement over the long term. So there would have been no point whatsoever in us running that Brendan Amagade campaign if it was just a one-off, right? So we created a home, you know, basically a holding environment for people's energy around that issue. And that's one of the problems. We take the issue of gun control. We're working right now on a new national gun control organization. And the thing that has failed on that issue is there hasn't been a home for people who want a place to, you know, to advocate around gun safety. It just pops up every time there's a national tragedy. And we all get very excited and angry. And then, you know, 2 weeks later, kind of we've forgotten about it. And so you've got to build infrastructure. Even with this, you know, online stuff, the infrastructure doesn't build itself. And you don't rely on Facebook for that.
Yes.
You have to own it yourself because these platforms will come and go. The other thing you have to do, and this is a word that the nonprofit sector doesn't always engage very well with, you actually have to think about brand. So you need a brand that actually has resonance. If you're trying to engage people, you know, you can't be, you can't have a super formal, we are the organization for the advancement of the this and that. You've got to actually be accessible to people, and that brand has to start sticking. So you need brand thinking as well as organizational thinking to supplement all of the online thinking.